Okay, so I am now going to show you how are we going to add animations into our character. Okay, and anyway, aside from our character, it is the procedure that I'm going to show you how to animate our character is just actually the same with the procedure when you are going to animate the other game objects. For example, we are going to have your enemy, animated enemy or animated obstacles and so on. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how are you to do it with our character. Okay, so first is we are going to prepare our sprites, animation sprites. Okay, so we have here our sprites. So we have so far, by the way, I already added the jump and the idle or the stand. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add the animation for walk. Okay, so I have here on my sprites. Okay, I have here the walk folder, which contains actually the walk animation. Okay, so these are the different sprites for the walk. Okay, so take a look at the our preview as I'm going to move from one item to another. Is take note of our preview here. Okay, so I'm going to move from one sprite to another. It seems like our character then is walking. Okay, so take note of the legs and the hands of our character. Okay, so I have here 11 um, sprites. Okay, for the walk animation. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy or move actually. Okay, this folder here, I'm going to move it to my sprites folder. Okay, so I have here now the walk folder for my uh, sprites. Okay, so next is we are going to create or open our animation window. Or first I'm going to create here a folder for my clips because take note, we are going to create different clips and also our animator. So therefore, we are going to deal with different files for our animations. Okay, so that is why I'm going to create here a folder. Okay, create a new folder. I'm just going to call it animation. Okay, again, I'm going to store all of my animation files in the animations folder. Okay, so next is we're going to open our animation window. Okay, so from window here, click, then okay, it is not animator, but it is okay. We have here our animation. Okay, so click. So we have here now our animation window. Okay, so I'm just going to dock it beside my game window. Okay, click and drag it here. Okay, so we have now our game and animation. Okay, so next is we are going to create our different clips. Okay, so the clip that we are going to create is one for idle, then jump, and walk. Okay, so there will be three animations that we're going to create. So first of all is we are going to create on the game object that we want to create the animations with. Okay, so as I click on the player, as you can see, the button here is now activated. Okay, so I'll begin animating player, create an animator and an animation clip. Okay, so I'm going to click on create, then it is going to ask where am I going to put my first clip. So I'm just going to have it here inside my animation. Okay, so take note animation folder. Then I'm going to have it here. The name would be idle, meaning it is not moving. Okay, so when the player is not moving, so that is idle. So we are going to play the idle animation. Okay, so save. Then next is we are going to get our sprites. Okay, so since I have only one sprite for my idol that is stand, so I'm just going to click this file here and drag it to my window. Okay, so now as I'm going to play, so it seems like nothing is happening. Why? It is because there is no movement actually, but it is an animation now. Okay, it is a clip with a single sprite. Okay, you could appreciate it later when we are going to have our walk animation. And by the way, it is going to the animation for idle or whatever state would depend on your character. For example, it is possible that my character or a character that you could download, okay, would have more than one image or sprite for the idle animation. It could be 2, 3, 5, or whatever. In my case, my character has only one um, sprite for the idle animation. Okay, so I'm going to create another one. So click on here, then create new clip for the jump animation. Okay, so add property. So I have here the jump. Okay, click and drag. Okay, play. So that's the jump animation. Okay, so take note of the hands and the legs. Okay, so last is we're going to have our create new clip. Then I'm going to have the walk animation. Okay, so save. Then I'm going to get my walk sprites. Okay, I'm going to select them all, then drag them to my animation window. Okay. By the way, I'm going to remove the speaker. I'm going to click on the gizmo, then the 3D icon. So we have now a clearer image for our player. Now, as I'm going to click on play, so that's my walk animation. Okay. Now, you could play with the samples here. Okay. So, if I'm going to have 30, okay, and play, okay, so meaning the lesser the number here would be, the slower would be the movement. Okay, so I'm just going to have maybe, let us say 20. Okay, so anyway, in your case, you are going to play with the values for our samples here. Okay, so that is now my walk animation. So I have now created 3 animations here for the idle. Then we have the jump. Okay, as I'm going to play, so that's the jump. Okay, and last is we have our walk animation. Okay. Now, as I'm going to go to my animation folder, so there are now files created. Okay, we have here the idle, the clip. By the way, this icon here is clip. Okay, so idle, jump, and walk. Okay, and automatically it also created another object, and this is what we call as animator. Okay, so this is an animator. As I'm going to go, I'm going to click on my player. As you can see here, we have now the animator component. Okay, so aside from the clips that we have created, so automatically Unity created an animator component for our player. Okay, so next is we are going to create then our what we call as transitions. Okay, so how are we going to create transition, or what is transition? When you say transition, it is actually a transition, okay, from one state to another. For example, from idle to walk, or from idle to jump, or walk to jump, and so on. Okay, so that is what we call as transition. Okay, so to create transition, we're just going to double click on our player animator. Okay, so this is our animator. So just double click. So we have here now our transition window. Okay, so N3 meaning, okay, the N3, the very first state. Then as you can see, by default it is now connected to idle. Okay, so I'm just going to arrange them. Jump, walk. Okay. So first is we are going to create the transition from idle to walk. Okay. So when can we say that our character is now going to play the walk animation? Simple. When it is walking. Okay. So how are we going to know in our game, in our code, that the player is walking? Okay, so that is actually through the velocity or the speed. Okay, so if ever the speed is not zero, so therefore the player is walking. So if ever it is from idle, so therefore we could then create a transition to walk. Okay, so first is we are going to create parameter, okay, that is going to determine when a clip is going to play. Okay, so in our case, from idle state to walk state, so we are going to depend on the speed, okay, or the velocity. So I'm just going to call it speed, okay, and the value for our speed is actually, okay, we're just going to have the float, okay, so I'm going to have here speed, okay. So again, the speed parameter here is my basis for the transition from state idle to walk. So next is I'm going now to create my transition. So to create my transition, I'm going to right click on this state, then make transition. Click. Okay? And as you can see here now, as I'm going to move my mouse, so I have here now this white line with an arrow or the transition line. This is actually my transition. So I'm going to click then on walk. Okay. So next is I'm going to set some parameters for my transition. So click. Okay. Then we have here in our inspector. So we have here some parameters. So first is on our condition. Okay. So add to list. Then we have here now our speed. So far I have only the speed defined in my parameters list. Okay, the speed is greater than, okay, so take note, we have only greater or less. Okay, so we're going to have first or greater. Okay, so if the speed is greater than 0, then it must be walking. Okay, but take note, if ever we're going to have a 0 here, there might come some problem later on because we are going to have some negative values as we are going to move. Okay, so to play safe, we're just going to have here 0.01. Okay, anyway, our movement, since we are using their get axis raw, okay, it would be directly from 1 or negative 1. Okay, so I'm just going to have first 0.01, and you could see it later on why we have this value here. Okay, then from walk, okay, to idle. Okay, so click, then we have here our condition. So 0, oh no, the speed. Now, as you can see here, we have no equal operator. Okay, because if so, therefore, if ever I'm going to say, because we could say that our player is not moving if ever the velocity is 0. Okay, so that is why we don't have any equal operator here. So that is why we have here if the speed is less than 0.01, meaning 0. Okay, so if ever 0.01 less than 0.01, so therefore it is going to do a transition from walk to idle. Okay, and by the way, I forgot how we must have to set has exit time. We are going to uncheck this one. Okay, because if ever it is checked, meaning transition has a fixed exit time, meaning if ever my clip is 1 second, so therefore uh, it must finish first, okay, the 1 second clip before it is going to do a transition. Okay, so that is why it must have to do transition anytime. Okay, when the condition is met, okay, so that's the time that we are going to perform the transition. Another one is this one here, transition duration. Okay, you could play with uh, the values here, but in my case, I'm using here 0. Okay, so that it would be quick to transition from one state to another. Okay, so I'm going to have also here uncheck, then this is 0. Okay, so we are done with our walk transition, idle to walk. Okay, so now we are going to set it into our code. Okay. Okay, so first is I'm going to have I'm going to declare a variable for my animator. Okay, so we're going to have our animator object, and by the way, going back there, in our scene, our player, by the way, we have here our animator. Okay, so it is now part of the components of our player. So therefore here, we are going to set an animator object. I'm just going to call it player animator. Okay, and let us start player animator. So to get component, then we have our animator. So this animator component here is, again, we have this one here. Okay, because this one here is the one in charge in having or playing these animation clips that we have. Okay, so when are we going to set our animation? Just going to have it on the update. Okay, as of now, still on the update. Okay, so I'm going to have here animations. Okay, so we're going to use our player animator to play our clips. Okay, first is we have our walk. So what's our walk? Idle to walk. So the speed. Okay, so we're going to work with our speed. Okay, so player animator dot set float. Okay, set float. What parameter? We have speed, comma, what should be our value? Supposedly we're going to have here our velocity, but our velocity is in our move, so actually we could actually also create here our animation, but I'm just going to leave it as it is. Okay, so the purpose of this function here is just to move. Anyway, we have called that here. Okay, and we get the value of the direction here, or horizontal movement that is going to determine the movement of our character. Positive going to the right, negative going to the left. Okay, so instead that we are going to have our, or we're going to use the velocity, so we could actually use here our direction variable. Okay, because again, direction could only be positive going to the right, then negative going to the left. Okay, so that's all. This is the only command that we are going to make when we are going to have idle to walk transition. Okay, so I'm going to save. think we have not missed anything now. So then I'm going to play. Oops, an error. Zero point zero one. No, set float. Okay, sub here. Okay. So I think that's the culprit. So save. I'll try it again. Okay. Wait, I'm going to remove. Okay. Okay. Also with my cactus. Okay. So I'm now going to move to the right. So as you could see, it is now walking. Okay. But as I'm going to move it to the left, okay, so it is not walking. Okay, so again, it only works going to the right. Okay. Now, what is the reason here? The reason here is actually our direction. Okay, so take note of our transition here. Okay, from walk to no, from idle to walk. Okay, let us say it is now going to the left. So the value of the direction or the speed is negative 1. Okay, and our speed or our walk animation is going to work only if ever the speed is greater than 0.01. But in our case, when we are going to the left, the value of our direction is negative 1. So therefore, it is less than 0. So therefore, the condition here is not met. Why? Because it should be greater than 0.01. And we know that negative value is less than this one here, 0. Okay, so what are we going to do? We are going to convert. If ever it is negative, we are going to convert it to positive. Okay, and how are we going to do that? Is we're going to use now the math if f class. Okay, and we are going to get the absolute value. Okay, so even though if it is negative 1, but if ever we're going to get the absolute value, it would be positive 1. So the absolute value of any signed number is always positive. Okay, so I'm going to save this, then play. Oops. Play. Mm. No, there we go again. I think it is. Is it capital A? Math F. Okay. Okay, it's capital A. So move to the right, stop. Then move to the left, so it is now. Okay, our walk animation is now working, both going to the right and going to the left, and the idle animation. Okay, but what have you observed here? I have no problem going to the right. It is looking to the right by default. But as I'm going to move to the left, the eyes are still looking, or our player is still looking to the right. Okay? So what I'm going to do here is it must wherever if ever our player is moving to the left, so it should look to the left. Okay? Right is right. We have no problem with our right. Okay? So how are we going to make our player look either left or right? Okay? It is actually here on our scale. Okay? So on the X, if ever I'm going to make this a -1, as you can see, it is now moved looking to the left. Okay? I'm going to have it positive, so it is now again looking to the right. Okay, so therefore, we are going to modify. Anyway, that is not actually involved into our animation. So I'm just going to have it here. Actually, we could have it there, or no, it's up to you. Okay, so I'm just going to have it here. Okay, so if we are going to validate for the direction, okay, if ever it is equal to 1, then transform dot, okay, it is the scale. Okay, so it is in our code, we're going to have that as our local scale is equal to new vector 3. Now it is vector 3. It is because it is x, y, and z. Okay, vector 3, then x, y, and z. Okay, so else meaning it is moving to the left. So therefore, we are going to let our player look to the left. Okay, so that is -1. Okay, save. Okay, left, right, left, then right. Okay. So next is we're going to have our jump. Okay. So take note that the player can jump either it is walking or it is in idle state. Okay, so that is why we have here, that's the usage for our any state. When you say any state, meaning it could be either idle or walk. Okay, so but what is our parameter or the flag that we are going to use so that we would know that our player is jumping or on the air? Okay, so I guess we have there our player is grounded. Okay, so meaning if ever it is on the ground, so therefore it is not jumping. But if ever it is off the ground, so or on air, so therefore it is jumping. Okay, so that's why we are going to play then our jump animation. Okay, so any state, make transition to jump. By the way, first would be our parameter. I'm going to have we're just going to have a boolean here on the ground. I'm just going to call it grounded. Okay. Okay, we're going to take note, grounded meaning it is on the ground. It is touching the ground. Okay. So for our parameter, we're going to have our grounded is it should be false. Okay, so meaning it is off the ground. Okay, so still I'm going to have has exit time, and this would be 0. Okay, so therefore if ever it is not grounded, so therefore it is jumping. Then from jump to walk. Okay, so here we're going to have grounded is true and speed is greater than 0.01. Okay, so those are my conditions. And also from jump to idle is we have the condition should be, okay, I'm just going to have first grounded is true and speed is less than 0.01. Okay, then I forgot. We're going to have our jump. Okay, so you have player animator dot set bool. Okay, set is capital S, set boolean, set bool, then grounded. Grounded is the parameter that we have defined here. Then what would be our value? It is player is grounded. Player is grounded, it is boolean. Okay, so therefore that would be our value. Okay, so save. Jump. Okay. Walk, walk. Okay. So we have here now our walk, okay, idle, walk, and jump. Okay. Okay, so that's how are we going to add animation to our 2D. By the way, this is 2D animation for our sprites. Okay, so that's all for this topic, and I'll see you on the next one.